Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Scott Clark. On today's episode, Dave, I want to address one thing that's, is a bane of my existence. You know how I've been chirping about the windows at City Hall?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what, now it has 3 colors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrong. And I admit, there's 4 or 5 now. I actually see it. There is actually... I missed the boat a long time ago. I always thought it was just like, oh, they have 2 and they couldn't... No, there's like 4 or 5 different colors of glass.
It's like a kaleidoscope.
It's a kaleidoscope. And maybe we should start embracing it now. Maybe I'm changing my tune.
I think you should, because this you're not going to win this one.
Maybe we've gone so far down the line with 5 different color panes that we need
now it's a theme.
Now it's a theme. So on today's podcast, Tanya Vrebosch comes in, and we have a really interesting conversation about, her journey on council, what appears to be some frustration she's facing now, what's changed over that time. But one of the things, because she talks about social media and how difficult it is, like 16, 17 years ago when she started in this, it's very different now. One of the questions I had was actually for you, because the sense was, which is really interesting, it sounds like politicians, and we've had a few in here, they're frustrated because their voice isn't being heard, right? And this is part of what we're doing. How much more difficult is it without the solid base of journalism in our community for major issues? And I'll use from Castle Arms, twin pads, transparency at council. I'm just talking about council issues, because there was a part that journalism, amplified voices when they needed to be amplified so that things don't get swept under the rug. How different is it now?
Well, it's vastly different when you don't have the resources and the numbers of reporters to work on something, right? So all the newsrooms are very understaffed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we have, Bay Today has three reporters and an editor, and one's
just handles outside issues, right?
Outside issues, and that's trying to cover off 7 days a week kind of news, right? And holidays and staffing, and that's just really not enough to run an organization. The Nugget has got 3 as well with an outside editor, and so they just are able.
Who are
to
the
do
3
it.
at the Nugget? So there's Greg, Jennifer, and
the guy that is down in Powassan. The
so
radio
outside.
guy. What's the radio guy?
From Rocco?
Rocco.
Oh, Rocco.
Yeah.
Rocco's at the Nugget?
Yeah, he works for the Nugget through the same program that David Briggs does for Day
so
to
he
Day.
does the outside community.
He does Calendar, Powassan area, and David Briggs does Mattawa, Sturgeon Falls.
When you were at the Nugget, I'll say in its heyday, when you had 20 reporters, whatever the number was, it was a large number of reporters. How many stories were you expected to produce every day?
There's been council meetings when I first started council, and I was covering council when Tanya was there, right? You'd want to get at least 2 good stories that night.
From council.
And there was one time where I came out with 5 or 6 stories from that night, because we had a long enough deadline that we could do that, because we weren't going on the press that early. Now, depending on the press time, you're lucky to get 1, and because they're not printing every day, and it's a different system, it would be online.
So what is the expectations today for a reporter when you basically, and we'll take Rocco out of it because there's 1 extra outside reporter for Bay Today as well. And we'll say the radio stations have 1, maybe 2, I don't know, 1, maybe 2 that are generating stories.
Yep.
How many stories do they have to produce in a day based on the fact that we consume information at a ferocious rate?
Oh, from what I'm noticing, it's one decent story a day with some probably rewrite. That's about it. And sometimes
just 1 a day? For some reason, I thought the number was going to be a lot higher, only because there's a lot of news that I see. Well, say news. There's a lot of stories.
News stories where you have to interview multiple people, maybe 1 a day. And then other things where you're just rewriting a media release and you're adding a photo, and you're just not the kind of thing you put your name on, really, or would want to. I haven't noticed, and unless somebody's on vacation and you're filling in and you're doing a whole bunch of things, and that's what happens right now is that you might have one reporter and one editor for the day. So you're just picking and choosing. From what I can tell, when they come out of a council meeting, they don't rush the story that night. They might have something if it's big and it has to be done. But the next day, the story goes with maybe some follow-up interviews because it's a different ballgame right now.
It really is. Yeah. It's right because I would say 20 years ago, it was, you had to be first with a really good story.
Yeah.
And then often Brady would pick up really good stories and they give the credit to the Nugget or whoever's producing it, right?
Yeah. Like we always sort of felt that we were doing the heavy lifting for the others because we would have it in the paper the next day and they weren't really set up for it. And that would give them something to move off and work on, right? And do stories. Like you might come out of a council meeting with one story that you're going to do and have it ready for the morning or that evening. And then others that you're looking at, depending on the topics, what was passed, what wasn't, what's topical and what's necessary.
So in this interview we're about to hear with Tanya, her frustration is palpable. Right?
Oh, yeah. She is very frustrated, very passionate about it. And it's interesting. I didn't want to... she was always very supportive of staff and protective of them. When her first couple terms, I thought overly so, because I thought even senior managers definitely need to be held to account at some point. It wasn't just, and she was very protective, right? And now she's having a little problems getting the information from some of the of the departments.
Yeah, what do you think that is? Because I was fascinated. I didn't ask the question, but there was a time she was the deputy mayor, and I'm thinking the deputy mayor asked for some information. The deputy mayor gets information.
Yeah, it's a different story when you're budget chief and deputy mayor, for sure.
Okay,
or chair of a committee. So she's fallen down far enough into the pecking order where they can ignore, or she's not a priority, or she's going to have to ask a couple times and go get it, right? Yeah, it's just she's
really
she's not at the top there.
But
right?
There's only like 10 of them.
I know, but there's 3 chairs for the committees, all right, and there's the mayor, and that's 4 strong voices asking for stuff, and they're the ones in control,
right?
Yeah. So the other 6 are just hoping.
So it's not so much potentially like it feels like, wow, that feels kind of targeted, but it's really how the system works, the bureaucratic system works, right?
A little bit.
It's like, okay, council, we have to make sure the leaders on council are made sure they're fed all the information. And if we have time for the others, we'll feed them that information. So if you start at the top and then you're down that pecking order a little bit more, probably that's part of that frustration, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think it's targeted?
Targeted? Well, if you're not on the A team, you're not on the A team.
And so are you saying that, I'll say bureaucrats, so this is bureaucrats in general, right? Bureaucrats play the long game. Politicians are playing short games.
Yes.
Right? That's how it works, right? So it's very it's interesting, that whole dynamic.
And the reality is, at City Hall over the last couple of years of this particular term, not all the managers were actually on the A team either.
That's interesting.
Right?
There's interesting.
Been some deck chairs and persons moved around.
Yeah.
And that's part and parcel to
how it works.
How it works with a new mayor and a new council and with other priorities, right, and other things. Yeah, it's very interesting. So there's very dynamic.
Yeah, you usually see that, I think. You usually see that in the CAO. Usually, like, CAOs have a short tenure generally. And then, it usually changes with different councils depending on...
I think, we're on to our 4th CAO in the last, in the years that Tanya's been involved.
So 16 to 17 years. So basically one term, 4 years. Every 4 years, there's a new CAO. If basically, in that math,
it's kind of like it's happening like terrible? That. It's a short term.
4 times 4.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it because Because I'm sure Tanya's probably anticipating what she sounded like.
But I thought it was really kind of cool, and we were talking about it. She was very nervous about coming on this because she had, she has a passion, and she's been chastised and threatened with lawsuits in the past year.
Wow!
Right? So, and 2 or 3 actually, and including some of the stuff we couldn't really get into, right? So she was really she was very brave of her to come in with, recording, listening, and who knows what was going to come out, right?
Yeah, because they're not protected the same in council than outside of council.
Yeah, she wouldn't have any protection at all in what she said here, not like if she said it in the chamber, and definitely not as much protection as you do if you're a member of provincial parliament or a member of parliament. And you have to depend on having enough friends on council if it's a close call, if the insurance isn't going to cover you. And if you don't have any friends, it's kind of hard to feel brave when you're out there. So I give her all that credit for coming in here, and I could have had some more fun with her, but I had a little, and remembering certain things. And I definitely, when you hear about the twin pad, I remember her saying, "We've studied this enough." And I'm like, "No, you didn't."
All right, let's and you're right. And I want our podcast, this Echo Essentials podcast here in North Bay, to be a place that, people can come on and they can speak, and they're not going to be sued, including us.
Well, we want it to be civil, and we want it to be effective.
I agree. All right, let's get to it. Here's Tanya Vrebosch.
Founded in 1968, Voyageur Aviation is a proud member of our community, providing worldwide aviation services from our headquarters right here in North Bay. If you're looking for a challenge, change, or want to expand your current career in aviation, Voyageur is hiring for a wide range of technical and non-technical roles, including pilots, aircraft maintenance personnel, corporate administration, machinists, supply chain professionals, and more. Be part of a workforce that is over 400 strong, supporting humanitarian, government, defense, and civil aviation operations around the world. For a career in aviation and beyond, learn more about open positions and career paths at voyav.com.
We're lucky to have Tanya Vrebosch in joining us. This is her first time into the Echo Essentials podcast, and it's great to have you here, Tanya.
Thanks, guys.
So how many terms have you been on council for now? That's not the toughest question, I don't think.
It might be the toughest question because I think I stopped counting. I definitely have 16 years in.
16 years?
Might be 17. I think I stopped counting. But I started in Vic Fideli's term. I came in 11th. I took over for Maureen Boldt. I went from 11th to 3 to 2 to 1. And then after that, now we're down to, I said, I'm just number 7 now.
So when you spend that much time in on council, what first of all, your experience when you first came in, you were probably so green at that time, but your father has lots of political, I'm sure around the kitchen table, you've learned lots about politics over the years, but over that time, you've learned so much, but has much changed from that first year you went in to where it is now?
Absolutely. So I remember the first meeting, I didn't even know if I could raise my hand. I wasn't sure what to do. And I still, Peter was there, and because Chris was there, and I think those are the only, and Mac were the 3 that were there that are still with me now. And I remember I was just and so I got into the group, into the swing of things, but you sit and you watch, and of course I, knew politics from my dad. I was on his coattails from, as a baby. But that's what you need to do is when you come in, you listen, you watch, you learn. But there was a lot of experience around that table.
Sure.
But I also had my own mentors, to deal with. But, you kind of have to learn who you can trust. And that takes a little bit of time to figure it out. But over the years, I obviously came into my own, have my own voice. I always said that I got to where I was because, the Vrebosch name with politics was synonymous. That, I think, got me in the door. But it was my work ethic and what I do that kept me there and allowed me to move up in politics. But it has significantly changed, especially with social media.
So 16, 17 years ago, it was very, very different social media-wise.
Huge difference. There wasn't the pressure that came from social media. There wasn't the media didn't report the way they did now, because now it's, what's the quickest thing I can get? Somebody wrote something on Facebook, that turns into a story, because they don't have the resources anymore like they did, where they could send, somebody to every council meeting to actually write the story. Everything is like, the faster you can get it on on the internet, you have to be ahead of the game. How many clicks can you get? And that's not how it was. And I feel old when I'm saying that. We actually had a newspaper that you would read, and that's
right.
That's gone now. But things have changed. Political pressure, the clickbait stuff, trying to put up fires with what people think is actual reality versus that was just one person that said something that turned into false information.
When you hear, I'm sure many people said, Tanya, just don't read it. Just don't engage with it. But I guess as a politician, often social media is one of those things where you actually hear the voice of the community that you represent. So you have to sort of lean in to see what the conversation is. But when you lean into it, it can be, and I've seen it, and I've only had a little, I don't have the political background that you have. I've had a little, but it can be very, very nasty. You
have to have thick skin, and you have to have even thicker skin now than you used to. Because the comments people will make, and there was a time where I remember Al and I were pushing for removing the comments on the media articles,
right?
The bullying that was happening, and we talk about everyone stands up against bullying, but I remember saying that why not for all? Why not for adults? Like, people shouldn't be able to say what they say sometimes and get away with it. And now the filter's gone. Mm-hmm. People have no fear of what they say and what they put on social media, regardless of the fact that I have children that read or hear about things, the fact that we have family, and the negative comments, the ignorant comments, whether it's about it could be about who am I as a person, my sex, my weight. It could be anything.
Wow.
And there's no filter.
So let me ask you, in the 17 years, what are you most proud of? And it doesn't have to be like a giant project, or it could be, but maybe it's something small. Maybe it's like, wow, this is why I do it.
I think I do it because I like helping people, and that was my dad. It was always what he taught me. He says, we're not in it to, to have the name in the paper. I don't care about that stuff. But what I like is when somebody comes to me and they have a problem, is that I can help them try to find a solution. And it was always like, he taught me, he said, when he was in East Ferris, he'd say, put the pot of coffee on, I'm coming over. And it still surprises people to this day when I show up at their door, because they're not expecting somebody to actually come and see them and talk to them. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just that relationship with people, and it's being able to advocate for them for change. So are there big projects? I'm happy with the progress that the city has made. Like, we don't have huge growth, but we've been trying. During COVID, we got through COVID, unscathed pretty much. But we also there was reasons why we came out of that unscathed, because we didn't have a lot of liabilities or risks like other communities did with, golf clubs and all the areas where their revenue was impacted, right? We were able to start seeing growth in our community. We saw good things. We were, all those different top 10 this, top 10 that, people wanting to move to North Bay. It was positive messaging. And I think that's the stuff that makes me proud, because I'm very proud of North Bay. And if anybody ever comes under attack of North Bay or the Nipissing District, I'm one of the first ones that's going to stand up and say, I'm going to speak about it, and I'm going to say why. Mm-hmm. And unless you have somebody to back it up, but I'm like a dog with a bone, and I'm very protective of our community.
So in the past 17 years, asked about a highlight, but tell me something. Is there something that's been the bane of your existence over these years? Maybe it's resolved now, or maybe it isn't. I'm thinking the 17 years, one of them has to have been the twin pads. Twin pads probably were on your plate in the first council. I could be wrong. But is there one that's like, oh, this is the bane of my existence? I wish we could resolve this issue.
That's the one. It should have been resolved a long time ago. And I keep saying it's like Groundhog Day. Every new council comes in and says, we don't like that location. We don't like the price. We don't like this. We go back and we find out, oh, I guess it is the right location. I guess, and I'm like, how many times do we have to have the conversation? But that's the political pressure that comes in sometimes with new people saying, somebody's in the background saying, no, it should be done this way or that way. I'm an expert and da-da-da-da-da. And then they go back, they look at all the information that we get, the reasons why we did it, why we're heading that way. And so it's an annoyance for sure. And the fact that we're going to pay whatever price tag, and I guess we'll find out a little bit more tonight because it's on the agenda, to get less than what the original proposal was. The fact that we keep fighting for dollars to go with it to try to reduce it, but we weren't successful getting into those grants. Maybe there's an opportunity now because there's new grant money available. But again, it's just that thing that I think it might be 4 terms now. We've been talking about this. It would have cost us significantly less the first round. But location was a key thing. And there was a lot of political pressure. A lot of different coffee shops had different coffee groups talking about where it should be and why it should be there. And my biggest thing, I always wanted in Ferris, just because Ferris needed to grow, it needed some attention. We've got a hotel that wants to build, and I thought it was because of the casino. But they were, and maybe I'm hoping they're still coming, that they're waiting for the community center. The community center attracts tourism for sports tourism, and that's going to fill their hotel rooms, not the casino. The casino is more local people stopping in, but are they getting a lot of people coming from out of town staying? Probably not as much as a community center. And we had, I think one of the local gymnastics places had, I think it was the Sunshine Classic was wanting to come. There's lots of good things that can come out of a community center. We just need to get one. But it needs to be functional. Like we just went through a couple of years ago for the Royal Canadian Legion was doing a big convention, and we don't have capacity to hold 700 people. We don't have a modern facility that when people are looking at where they can go, they're looking at ticking off boxes of what's modern. The Memorial Gardens is great for size, but it's an old building that when you put people in there, they get cold. There's a draft, and I get it's a community center, but some community centers can do it where, those things are adjusted. So are there other benefits to it? Absolutely. But people don't see it. And then you have the community center versus I play, I ski versus I swim. Why is all the money going there? And it's turned into a war, and it started as social media plays a big part in it, and it makes people angry because they think we're putting all this money into a community center, but it's because it's all we've talked about for four terms.
It's interesting because I was there when you first got to council, and I remember the coverage. And
I was always worried, by the way, of what my nickname would be. I never wanted to read his article.
Did you give her a nickname?
No, I didn't.
You did. I remember the first thing he wrote, though. I remember reading it, and I was in my car, and I read it, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't like I was so worried about it
to see what's sticky.
There was no name.
What was it?
But it was not. You didn't give me a nickname, but you did
so.
write something nice, though.
Oh,
yes, but I remember opening it and being worried about what it was going to say.
Hi, I'm Natasha Laframboise, sales representative with the Laframboise team at Realty Executives Local Group Inc. Brokerage. We are a local real estate team here in North Bay. Our team of sales representatives, Matt Laframboise, Phil Seguin, and Adam Negro, are ready to help you through the buying and selling experience. We have been providing service to the North Bay and area community for over 17 years. Our goal is to provide knowledge, support, and guidance in order to prepare your home for sale, bring it to market using multiple selling strategies, and get it sold. As a home buyer, we have 2 buyer's agents ready to help you find your home sweet home. If you'd like to know more, check us out on our website, laframboiseteam.ca. We are always happy to help.
I remember all the evolution of the things you're talking about. It's funny when you're going through that many years, right? Yep. It's and of course I was not a proponent of the location, and I didn't like the fact that. And I think your quote was, "We've studied this enough." And I didn't think that was true because I think more study would have at least allayed the different perspectives that they needed more information to rule out the Memorial Gardens and a few other things. But I want to bring the conversation to some recent stuff, which social media did come into play as well, because after the last meeting where your motion to move to committee the subsidizing of the ski hill, was defeated. You put an explanation up on your Facebook page. And then there was a reply from Peter, right, the Mayor Chirico, who actually went on there to clarify his perspective on it. Right? Now,
his perspective and his opinion of my work ethic.
That as well, right? So it's very interesting that public place where I think it's healthy. I other than overt harassment, I think it's good that if people could express their opinions, I think more politely and more civilly, if we can control that, that'd be good. But in his reply, that he was trying to say that, well, you were the budget chief.
Yep.
That there was $100,000 going to the ski hill on top of the money for the $60,000 for the water.
So there was $65,000. If I got to remember which number is which, but $65,000 was always going for capital. $60,000 we gave them as a subsidy for water because their water bill is atrocious. We know that it's a huge risk, which Peter's been open about talking about. The possibility of the city taking over the ski hill. And the risk for us, if we even tweak our calculations for water, would be a significant increase to the taxes. And so we knew that the water bill was always high. There was never any, they needed support with, they had to buy a groomer. We gave them a loan that was repaid back. I don't know when it was paid back, but it was paid back. So we've always had a good, healthy relationship with the ski hill. And everything that has transpired over the last year with the ski hill is not an attack on them. It's just to say that there was concerns that were brought up in October of last year from some citizens, and I said, I don't know the answer to that. But my back was also up against the wall because it's brought to us at the 11th hour. I'm on the phone with the chair of the ski hill the night before the meeting trying to get answers. I'm talking to staff, right, because I'm thinking, I don't have this answer. How am I supposed to answer this? And I'm told, but if you don't support this, the ski hill will not be able to open this year. It's going to close. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want that to happen, and that's not going to be great. So I was mad. And if you watch the video of that council meeting, I spoke and I was very firm about the fact that I didn't appreciate being put into that position. The fact that because I said, well, can we just delay it so that we can have the conversation about what's going on? Let's figure it out. What do they need? And why without this money they're going to close? We've gone through COVID with them, where there was potential, but then they came out okay. We've always had those open conversations. And so the fact that I had no opportunity, couldn't refer it to committee, council for the most part, we all have day jobs. And so you do everything on the side. You do it on your breaks. You do it on your lunch hours. You do it in the evenings. You're doing it on the weekends. You're asking what you can. You're doing what you can. But when there's no opportunity to just delay it for just a moment so we can breathe. So I said, okay, I'm okay with doing this now, but we need to look at this further. And I'm told by staff that there'll be another request that will come in the new year. And I said, okay, well, budget. Our budget was so delayed because normally we would do it maybe January. We'd be done, usually January we've passed it, right? We're into March. We're still in the budget. I bring it to the ski hill and I said, where can we get the numbers on the ski hill? Where are they at? And they say, we can't bring you the information. We don't have it. They still have to get through their March break. We don't pass the budget till May. Nobody's still talking about the ski hill. That to me was the opportune time to say, what do they need to be successful? Because I hate taking money from reserves if we don't need to. If this is something that's an ongoing request, then it's got to be an ongoing, and let's have that conversation about it. But stop taking it out of reserve, pretending like it's not something that's needed. If they need it, let's talk about it. Because if what we're giving them is not sustainable enough, then what is it that they need? But we never have those conversations. I ask, I get nothing. I go online, I can't find the financials. Staff can't give me anything. They say they don't have anything. So I sit there and I wait. July comes. We've passed the budget now. 2 months later, I get asked for $100,000 again. So I'm thinking, but if now 2 months later, that another $100,000, if we don't do it now, they're in a deficit. They can't open. And I'm I told Jen from the Nugget, I said, Jen, you don't have to write a new article. I said, just go take the one from October of last year and just copy and paste. It's the same thing. How does it happen over this amount of time where I can't tell the public I can give you something? Because there are people, I think there's, some people that are maybe struggling. with the ski hill and what they think or how the ski hill should be run. And you've got the current ski. That to me, that's their own whatever it is. My thing is that if you're saying somebody's telling me that they were in the black, now they're in the red. There's consultants. Why do they need a consultant? What are they doing for? And I'm like, hey, look, I don't know. All I know is that you're telling me that if they didn't have a consultant, they wouldn't need this $100,000. Obviously, I'm going to ask some questions about it, right? So, but I can't ask questions because there's nothing in front of me. And I keep asking, and even though I've been asked, I was told I can get the financials that were handed to the city staff. That was a week ago. I still don't have anything in my hands. So, but this goes into the bigger piece, and this is why I said on my social media page is that this is not an attack on the ski hill. This is a conversation about transparency, whether it's intentional or not intentional at City Hall. This is where you talk to me about what's the change over the last 16 or 17 years. I've never struggled this much to get information at City Hall. I've usually been able to say, hey, look I have a citizen with an issue or have a question about this. Staff usually come back, give me an answer. And it doesn't mean I'm always going to get the answer I like, but I get an answer that I can say, it doesn't leave me with more questions to say, well, that doesn't make sense. Or what about this? Or last week you said this, and now this week it's this. Well, what's the answer? And then I feel like I'm running around. I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes. I know that...
Tanya, but wasn't the part of this, and again, I don't have as deep an understanding as both of you, but I thought it was that since you've been on council, they've always asked for that same amount, and
the
for some
100,000?
reason... No?
Unless I've missed it somewhere, there was $60,000 for water, $65,000 for capital, and then there was this other $100,000 that was like, we need this now or we can't open the ski hill. And I don't remember. And
so
again,
this was an
extra $100,000 in October of last year, saying that they were in a deficit. I said, okay, but my thing is that what's the sustainability? If somebody's going to keep coming to me and asking for, and we use the ski hill, we put them on the front page of all our tourism stuff. We talk about and promote the fact that we have a ski hill in the center. Absolutely love the ski hill. Always supported, promoted it. I've done a fundraiser for them personally with them. Like, this is something I like the ski hill being here. I just want to be able to say that I've made a good, solid decision. I can back it up, and I can explain to the citizens why I did what I did. And if you have a question, I should be able to say, I get it. Here's the answer to that.
So a week ago, you were told that the financials were available because they were given to staff, but do you know which staff you have to ask it for, or do you have a request in that they didn't answer? I'm just not clear.
Well, it was told to me in a meeting, and so I put an email in the other day saying I'd like the copy of the financials that I was told I would get last week. I'm still waiting for them. So sometimes I don't know if it's like a communication challenge or what it is. Something has changed significantly, and it all starts from the beginning when I brought forward Castle Arms about the fact that Castle Arms was taken from the taxpayers of Nipissing District without communication or consultation. Before I even brought that motion forward, I was told by somebody that it was going to be buried before it even came forward. So I said, you know what? It's a new term. Everyone's got to figure out where they're going with it. But I put so much detail into that motion that there's no way anybody couldn't have read that and said, what the hell happened there?
Is that this term that happened?
This term, one of the first meetings, because Castle Arms, is the biggest pet peeve that needs to be returned to the taxpayers of Nipissing District. And I've been fighting for that. I've been wanting that. And the thing is that it was going to be buried before and I heard about it before it even happened. So I said, you know what, everybody, but here's the thing, politics is a game. And it's a silly game sometimes. And
sounds like a terrible game when I hear we have these interviews.
It is. Honestly,
terrible.
It's and you have to play and you have to be strategic sometimes because you have to get people to.
Do you feel that you're being ostracized this term?
I believe so, yes, because I am not a yes man. I don't just do what people want. I don't like some people on council, and that's not a secret. But I've not. If there's ever been any issues with those individuals where they've been getting pushback from people, I've stood up publicly in meetings and said they're entitled to that information, and and that's not okay. So regardless if I like somebody or not, I do what's the right thing, and I'm not going to sit back and keep my mouth shut but I'm an interesting personality. I I'm not somebody that's just going to shake my head, say yes. I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to ask questions until I feel comfortable. Some people don't know how to handle that, whether it's staff or whether it's council or whether it's anybody. And some people don't enjoy that. And I don't really care. If I have a question, I should get an answer. If you as a citizen have a question, I'm going to get you the answer. And if I don't feel comfortable with it, I don't feel comfortable with it. Like, I don't enjoy thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why are they saying that? And I've been going through this, and I get that there's sometimes I'm like, people are going to make their marks. They're going to figure out who they can align with. Maybe they have to get burnt before they realize that, they need to maybe go and, like, I've been open saying, if you want to talk to me, and people have come to me and asked me questions, they never come back. When I wave the red flag or white flag, whatever flag you want to call it, when I say there's something off or wrong, they never come back. There's never any follow-up to say anything. But all I know is that a lot of the times, anytime I've brought something forward, nothing is happening. And so I go back to the budget. The budget, I thought I was losing my mind because I was a budget chief for years. I know the process. So throughout the fall, I'm getting things people are asking me for. So I said, okay, that's a budget thing. I send all the budget stuff in to the channels, right? So I send them to our staff. I CC, the budget chief, whatever, right? She's going to have her own process or whatever, right? So budget happens. I'm thinking, okay, they'll bring all my stuff forward. Because it's not my stuff individually. Some of it's mine, but some of it's because I've identified stuff or somebody's brought something forward. And then I'm told, oh, well, you have to ask all your questions. I said, oh, geez. So I started getting my email to write all the things that I brought forward in separate emails. So I'm scrambling, trying to get it all together. Why wasn't it all prepared and to be discussed? I don't know. But I'm like, okay, whatever. I can do this. I asked all the questions. There were very few answers. Well, how do you not have any answers? I've been handing this stuff in for months. And then we talk about the needles. The needles was a big one.
The what?
The needles.
Oh,
and
okay.
I said, I'd like to know how many needles there are because I don't enjoy that box. I don't enjoy this the one box that we have. In my opinion, there are better ways to spend that money and have a better return on investment to get the needles and to actually deal with the needle situation. And so it's a big conversation. I go to the next meeting. I'm treated like garbage. To say, don't you know that there's a needle problem, Tanya? Are you trying to get rid of a needle pickup program? I said, there was a media article that talked about this, and the one counselor was listed as was quoted in it. And now coming at me saying, are you trying to do it? Do you not realize we have a needle problem? I'm like, what are you talking about? Staff don't have the number for me. But I said, but the last meeting you said you would get me the number. And I keep saying, there was a big article in the paper about it, but everyone all of a sudden forgets that. I say, I'd really like to do for community safety and well-being, I'd like to say that we do a survey and we ask the public, what would you like us to do to make you feel safer? Do you want more lights in parking lots? Do you want more lights on the trails? I personally would like to make sure that my kids can go to a playground, making sure that there's no needles. So everyone has a different perspective on things. I'm told that's a great thing. It's an easy thing. Our communications officer can do it. I wait about a month or so, and I'm asking about the survey, which the media remembers me asking about it, and I'm told, oh, that survey won't be coming out, but we're going to do a different survey, and we might just throw a couple of questions in there. And I'm like, but that's not what we talked about. I have a 15-year-old girl that wants a basketball net. We go through the whole process. She's done what she needs to do. I bring it forward to council. Doesn't really get discussed. The budget's coming to an end. I said, well, when does she have an opportunity to address council? Well, she doesn't. There's only the next meeting, and the 3 time slots are full. And I said, so we are failing this young girl and telling her bureaucracy got in the way, and she can't make a presentation about a basketball court or net that she wants in her local playground? You would think when you say this to a table full of politicians or anybody, that a young girl wants to speak and to come forward to say why she wants a basketball net, and we have not given her that opportunity. So these are the things that I'm dealing with, and I'm like, but how can nobody see that? And hate me or not, but I'm like, if I'm just putting something simple out there, take the win for it. Go and make it be the person that is the martyr and go, I don't know what they need or want, but I don't know what else to do.
I think you were involved with the passing that restrictive procedural bylaw, weren't you?
For which one, sorry?
The procedural.
with the three. No, but you've got it. But the thing
It
is,
seems more restrictive than it used to be.
But when I was the budget chief, we had open houses, we had public consultation. Where were those? And that's why I said, why don't we have these? And there are reasons for having three.
Let's not debate that.
But I was just going to say, I'm like, but there are, when you do have when you have a topic though that needs more, then you have different meetings to allow the public to speak.
Yes, and that's what should happen.
And I brought that forward, but nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah, we only have about 5 more minutes, and I really want to get into one. I thought you may be a potential candidate for an upcoming election.
Yeah.
You tried provincially. Have you considered the Liberal nomination for the federal election that's going to be coming in the next year or so?
Oh, nobody can afford to run. I said, it cost me $10,000 to run for the provincial election out of my own pocket. I said, that's too hard to do on a family. And this next election, wouldn't it be nice to just vote an independent? There
is an independent party now.
There is. You know what? But here's the thing is that it's hard, and I don't, just so you know, the federal Liberals have not approached me, nor has any other party, and that's okay too. But I'm struggling just like anybody else. Voter apathy is out there, and that's part of the problem. And so you want good people to get in there, but I'm like, I just keep trying to find any way that I can wiggle into any level that's higher, because I've told you before, the health crisis is something that I'm very passionate about, and we need to have a strong voice, and whatever way, if you want me to be blue, green, red, whatever it is, I will find whatever path I need to, and I've done that now. I'm on the rural caucus and Roma again.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that in.
That will give me an opportunity to try to bring issues in North Bay, Nipissing District, rural areas in Ontario to the table at the province.
And that was an election you were elected to the AMO's rural caucus.
Yep.
And that comes with it involvement with Roma as well.
So I'm following my dad's footsteps because he was on Roma and the rural caucus for about 27 years.
Yeah, and North Bay is partly rural, eh?
We've got a large rural component. If you think about it, we have the same challenges as other people when it comes to the lack of transportation in rural areas. When you talk about connectivity, there's a lot of issues that we face, but we never think of ourselves as rural because we always consider ourselves as northern.
Well, I think there's some issues that will be coming up that will be in your ballywick, because I know that the farmers are not too happy with a certain planning rules regarding that are impacting them, and we're going to be doing something on that coming up.
Well, a huge piece of that is farming, to be able to pass it down to your children. A lot of rules have changed that it's too expensive to pass your farm down to your children. And so there's a lot of challenges that farmers are facing right now. And so, again, learned a lot about that at AMO, and I look forward to advocating for a lot of people right now.
What other issues we have? We're recording this on the 10th. September. There's a council meeting tonight. This will be coming out on Thursday this week. What do you expect to happen tonight at council, and we can look back to see if it came to fruition? I
have no clue what's going to happen tonight. I just think it's going to be 2 hours of talking, and I struggle with community. I want it to be done, but then at some point you don't want to say, like, I don't want it to be done, because now it's like we're paying too much for what we shouldn't be. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place.
We're talking about the twin pads here?
The twin pads, and that's on the agenda for tonight. So it's going to be an update. I really do hope, and I push for accessibility to make sure that, we had promised a level of standards for accessibility, and we were going to go down to the minimum level of accessibility. So I fought for that recently, and I'm hoping to still see how that's going to play into it. I look forward to hearing the feedback from the community partners that have been part of this process since the beginning, to see what has changed. If anything, we're all looking forward to seeing what the price tag is. But my thing is, what's the price tag with what we're going to get? It's also this process, I forget what it's called, this new way of whatever choice we've picked, where we can off-ramp at any time.
I think the catchphrase for this project at this point is, we're going to pay more for less.
Yep, that's what and I've been saying that for the last few meetings, and it's too bad. It's too bad we're at this point, but at some point, this is what we're left with. But we do need one. We do need to start looking at our resources and where. It doesn't mean that we're not going to look at cricket pitches, and we've got a request coming up, I think, at one of the future council meetings for what's it called, a freshwater swim lanes or something like that. So really interesting things. We do know that there's more than just hockey, but hockey is a growing sport, especially with young girls and females. Huge growing. But it's also, there's, the walking track. There's the community aspect to it that keeps getting lost because everyone just wants to say hockey, which is an elite sport, which is some people's opinion, but there's a lot more to it. So I would like to see us tie a ribbon on this one and get it done and move on and start focusing on some other priorities.
Well, Tanya Vrebosch, thanks for coming in. And was there anything else you wanted to add before you go? Because you're incredibly passionate.
I am.
Really glad that you came in and joined us on this. And thank you very much. And thank you for your community service too, right? Like, there's not many people who will step up to the plate and actually get involved. And it doesn't come without some bruises and bumps and along the way. So we appreciate that you step up and do this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Dave, it's time to do a live read from one of our sponsors, and Casey's is today's guest. Hey, this weekend, make your way to Casey's Restaurant in North Bay for an unforgettable get-together. Speaking of get-togethers, did you ever go there on a Friday night?
Oh, it's the best place for a cold beer on a Friday.
Cold beer on a Friday night. It used to be like the whole town. It's like the whole town came in on a Friday night.
Meet and greet, sure.
Hey, dive into delicious appetizers, enjoy the best drafts in town, the perfect spot to unwind, catch up with your friends, and savor some great flavors. I love the Cobb salad.
Chicken wings for me, chicken wings.
I do like. Do you like them breaded or just dusted?
Dusted is best.
Dusted is best. Don't miss out on all the fun. Come up to Casey's for the weekend. Lots of great food. There's great drinks. And even better company, and Dave and I can attest to that. Thank you, Casey's, for being a great sponsor. Really appreciated having Tanya in. She was incredibly passionate. Now, we're doing this the day after. And why did you want to do this piece the day after?
Well, I watched the council meeting that we were talking about in the interview about the arena. And I said, when we were talking to Tanya, that it looks like they're going to be building less for more. And then when I saw the presentation and what they were talking about and the thought that went into it and the visual, it looks like an arena I would like. And I liked how they put things. I actually am hopeful that they can get near the 60 million and just go ahead with this.
What was the price tag last night?
Well, their initial sort of calculation, they're up to 65 million, but now they're working back down towards the 59.9 or whatever limit that the city.
And that's with the contingency?
That's with everything. Because Jamie Lowry asked about all the different things if they're included, and they said everything's included. So
okay,
yeah.
And was it a completely different design?
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like a real arena, and it looks like a sturdy arena. It looks like it can weather the storm. They're going to use materials that are easy to clean if it's got graffiti on it and other stuff like that. They reoriented it so it's going to be built on the rock instead of trying to avoid it, and it's a little bit closer to the fields. There's a lot of things I like to. Not too sure still about the parking, whether there's enough, but I think they can mitigate it. So I'm giving it my tentative green light if things work out. Yeah.
This is one of the first times I've heard, first of all, you ever being optimistic about anything, but it's generally when it comes to the arena, nobody's optimistic about the arena. So,
well, I was ready to go at 72 in the Trident because I was just tired of talking about it, and I pointed out the flaws forever, and nobody cared. So, but this, I like what I'm seeing so far.
Great news. Well, thanks for joining the Echo Essentials podcast. If you want to find out more information about all the great podcasts that we have on the network, simply go to northbayecho.ca. You can sign up there. Sign up for Dave's awesome newsletter. They pumps out twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it comes right into your email inbox. Super easy stuff. Just go to northbayecho.ca, and Dave and I will talk to you next time.
Hi, I'm Ben, podcast producer here at North Bay Echo, and the Echo Essentials newsletter is a great way to get all of the news and events that are happening in the North Bay area, and of course all the newest podcast episodes in one neat package. And it's very easy to sign up, and you can get subscribed in a few simple steps. So first, you're going to want to head on over to northbayecho.ca. While you're on the home page, you'll see some of the shows that we offer, but we want to keep scrolling down to this panel right here, and you can see there is a box to type in an email address for the Echo Essentials newsletter. So all you have to do is type in your email, make sure to check the box below. And what this will allow us to do is to send you the newsletter to your email. And of course, your info, as always, is protected by your privacy policy. Hit sign me up and you are good to go. You are officially a subscriber of the Echo Essentials newsletter. If you do want to check out our past newsletters as well, you can hit the past newsletter option to go right there, or you can just hit the newsletter tab at the top of the page. And now you can see all of the past newsletters that have been published. And there you have it. Super easy and simple. And now every Tuesday and Thursday, you will get Echo Essentials right to your inbox.